Thank you, Catherine. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to session 4, Socio-Economic and Community Impact of Technology. I'll be starting off the first session. The title of my presentation is the current status and problems with banana supply chain. So just a bit of my background. I've got 27 years of working with bananas. I started off from the field all the way post-harvest and then now into supply and value chain of banana. Just a bit of a background on the banana in global production and where the banana is produced. We heard some of this yesterday. There's a growing trend towards organic banana as well, just to put things in perspective. Of late, we've also been bombarded with the fear that the bananas are going extinct. It started some way back in 2015, 2016. It has not died down. That news, as we can see at the top here, July 30, 2021, it's still a discussion point. And what it has brought to us is the fear for all those banana lovers, whether or not we are going to be deprived of our favorite fruit. To some parts of the world, it is a staple food. And we had substantial discussion from yesterday and this morning on Fusarium and how it has devastated the banana industry. So we are still coming to terms with it and we're trying to deal with it. But despite that grim outlook, in 2019, the global seaborne exports of banana were estimated to reach 20 million tons, which is a 5% increase from 2018. So if that was pre-pandemic, if you look at the second point, in between January and July 2021, Colombia exported 100 million boxes of banana. And that is an increase of more than 7.7% in the same period of 2020. What it shows is despite the pandemic lockdowns, banana is still produced and exported and bringing in revenues higher than years before. The global banana production is expected to increase to 129 million tons by 2029. So although the grim outlook of fusarium and threat of extinction exists, it's business as usual for producers and exporters in major parts of the world. In the Malaysian scenario, it's third ranked of durian and pineapple in Malaysia. We heard this morning from Dr. Boon Chain and Dr. Ardiana that the banana production has dropped. This is a question that is interesting and intriguing as well, because we are not sure what data of the banana production in this country, Malaysia, that we are using, and whether or not this is an accurate depiction of the total production, because maybe DOA at some point in discussion can bring this up or discuss this, because from what we know, most of the banana production that is captured in Malaysia is captured on the account of production and sales. But if you go and look at where a majority of the Malaysian bananas are produced out of town, in villages, where farmers, smallholders, I don't think some of them will qualify as smallholders, but you refer to them as smallholders, people who have in the village have land behind their houses and they grow not enough to be called a farm of any size or any definition, but they still contribute to some production, and they have a huge variety of cooking bananas as well. So it's not just barangan that's in the market, but there are a large number of cooking varieties as well, including some of the less popular dessert varieties. All these are produced and they are collected by middlemen and they are aggregated and they are sold. There's no account of this, as in there's no paper trail of sales and purchase of these bananas, and they're not captured in the production category when it's reported. So there are a lot or more of this, and so we have to be a bit more realistic in looking at how we capture the banana production in Malaysia. And then there is losses in the supply chain. So this is a huge problem in developing countries, and we will also be talking a little bit more about this and why this is happening in this country. So we know we can produce, we know about the disease, we've heard about them, we've heard about all the technology that exists, but yet there is a loss in the supply chain that is between 15 to 55%, depending on whether you're looking at developed countries, where most of the losses happen with consumption or wastage due to purchasing and then not consuming, as opposed to in the least developed countries or developing economies, where most of the losses are captured before it even leaves the farm gate. So between harvest and before it reaches warehouse for distribution, a significant percentage is lost. So if you Google Mars banana or Rastali, you get very nice pictures like this. And I Googled this and I was impressed with how nice the banana actually looks. And trust me, I've worked, as I said, 27 years. I've been to the farm, I've harvested green, I brought those many different, 10 different varieties at one point when I worked with. I brought to the lab, controlled ripening. These pictures are real. We can get colors like this. And this is what we want. And we get this with the Cavendish and the imported bananas. But if you go to our local supermarket, this is the reality that we are faced. It doesn't look as yellow, as nice. It's full of blemishes. But this picture I took 3 days ago. Premium grocer. This is not even roadside or morning market. This is in a premium grocer fetching premium price. And this is not the worst thing. The worst thing is these bananas will be sold out. And that is the reality of the banana industry in Malaysia that is to some extent contributing to losses, because of if you can produce like this and sell it like this and it can still be sold at a premium price, then the question that begs to be answered is, why aren't we using all the technology that has been developed for maintaining post-harvest quality and reduce losses? The simple answer is the question, the picture before, and the fact that we heard yesterday as well that between 2000 and 2018, retail prices of banana have tripled. And the quality that I showed you is the result of that as well. The prices are still very high. The other thing that contributes to the quality or the value in the supply chain is the consumer's behavior. So the modern consumer is very much into social media, and they will complain if they bought something that was of inferior quality. And a lot of Malaysian consumers are like this. I've been telling this in my post-harvest classes as well, that in Malaysia, there are people who would buy just about anything and everything. When they're not happy, we will complain, but our complaints are not directed to people who could change this, but it's only to among family members, and then they're happy. It does not reach the seller, it does not affect the seller, because as much as we complain, we'll just go back and buy from the same seller anyway. That's generally the trend. and traceability and accountability of seller as well. So this is a big problem in the supply chain in Malaysia, is that we don't have good traceability. So if you bought something and went back to the grocer, and the grocer will not know where that banana came from, because it has already, between the farmer who harvested and the grocer that displays and sells that banana, it has exchanged hands many times through various middle person, and we have no way of finding out exactly which farm this banana came from, and that is a contributing factor to the loss in the supply chain, or the loss in the quality in the supply chain of bananas. The social economic realities of bananas post-harvest supply chain. There is a cost in implementing the technology, but as long as people are buying whatever is out there, they are not going to invest in them. That is the general trend of the people in the supply chain, because this is the reality is this: the producer is at the mercy of the middle person who controls. This is looking at trend in the supply chain, and they are selling at the lowest price ever. And that's why we have a great debate now in the world about fair trade, fair price, and it's catching up. It has not reached this part yet, but eventually it will. And that's an important consideration, because we've had so much discussion on post-harvest technology for extending shelf life, and that technology exists, but the motivation to implement this has not caught up, because as I've outlined earlier, people are just buying that banana however it reaches the market. So this is diversity and local varieties. So it's getting less. If you look at banana in Malaysian markets, generally you're not seeing Gading or Tanduk, Raja, Nangka, Awak, Abu. It's always a challenge to get this, and that is largely due to the fact that most of these banana smallholders have given up because of there is no real market, there is no promotion of this, there are no real buyers, or it's not being captured in the market. And the price of banana in the market, that has been largely been very depressing, to say the least, and we can't get value for those production. And this has contributed to people just moving out. So the sad reality of banana in Malaysia is a lot of small holders, or they have just given up their land, leased it out to oil palm, who promise monthly fixed returns. And there is so we are losing a lot of people who were in the banana industry, smallholders, because of the loss in the market as well. It's important because we did hear yesterday as well on the diversity of banana varieties, but if the market is captured only by one, it's a challenge to all the other varieties who are trying to break into to capture some of this market share. So this is just an overview of the supply chain. If you're looking at exporting countries, plantation to packing factory to export, and then shipping, and then from the importing country, it is import, uploading, after ripening, distribution, and consumption. So there are, in that chain, there is value and supply lost in every step of that process, all the way from harvesting. If you look at developed countries and large banana industries, like Chiquita, Dole, the practice is very impressive. So they have less in that category of at the harvesting and storage and processing. A lot more is lost in the packaging, marketing, and consumption. In poorer developing countries, we have all the way from harvesting techniques, technology, If you look at mechanical damage, also related to harvest and harvesting lines. If you look at the picture at the top, the industries that are in the developed economies, where there's a lot of care in handling right from harvest and cleaning. And then you look at the picture at the bottom in less developed countries where little care is taken for um, controlling losses because of the way we handle bananas from the harvest, including packaging, neck damage. So you can see the picture on the right, stocking that when you overstock and impact of weight, so bananas on the bottom. So sometimes they do take care and handle, but once it leaves storage facilities and go into grocers and if you go into markets when they're limited space, this is how it's handled and then contributes to some of the losses. So right from harvest, you can see pictures here. I'm just putting up some pictures to show where these losses and how it can be minimized. Picture at the top, again, just comparing developing countries to developed countries where there's a lot more care in protecting the produce from bruises, impact, damage, and so on. So, so in addition, you get middlemen, and that's the reality. There's a greater emphasis now for the modern consumer to diversify, or they call it agro-industrialization. On that note, you get more innovative way of selling, like this in the picture on the left. In Korea now, they give you a 6-day banana package where you start from the yellow. By the time you get to the last one, of course, it doesn't take into account climatic nature and how actually within 2 days everything will be yellow. But without the science, that's how it's a marketing. People still buy into it. You can diversify into products and produce as well. Final slide, just to lead on to the how we should do something about smallholder farmers when we're looking at population increase and how important they are, because while the big players contribute and control export economy, what the local consumers want are things that are readily available, diverse, and good quality, and hoping that somewhere along the supply chain, people would implement technologies that already exist to make sure that we do get quality produce. And hopefully consumers would also change and demand for better quality, not just look away when the produce is of inferior quality and still pay a premium price and contribute to people who don't want to change the mindset, because as long as the produce can sell, people are not going to change. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention and listening. I'll be happy to take questions. Okay, there's some comments in the chat.
Can I ask something?
Any questions?
Hi, Dr. Chandran,
yes,
is a very...
I see a hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I start? Okay, thank you so much. It's a very interesting presentation. I think you mentioned a few things about the statistics. I agree that there's some issues there, because I think most of what is being gathered is mainly the monocrop bananas. Yeah, but I just like to stress a point that the bananas grown here depend a lot on market, and there's a lot of market segmentation here, because I work on bananas and other crops, and I noticed that it depends where you understand your produce. Yeah, I've seen them packing their bananas, sliced, put it in plastic, plastic baskets and covering and this and that. So that's maybe for the supermarket for exports maybe. But there are also some who just they cut off the whole shoot at the tandan and just shove it in the lorry. But normally that goes for cooking bananas, the pisang nipah and all that stuff. But for things like berangan, I noticed that they're a bit careful, but there's some they're still not careful. And sometimes if you look in the supermarket, it doesn't look good, but when you buy pisang berangan at a roadside stall, it's fantastic. So it depends, yeah. So the whole value chain is very complicated. There's so many players there because your grower can also be an exporter, same role, yeah. I mean, he controls the whole chain. And grower can be a small guy who sells it to a trader. And the grower can also be a contract farmer, supplies to the trader, which tells him that, okay, I want it this way, I want this size, you have to put it in basket. So it depends on the market. It's a bit complicated, not much studies done on it. Actually, I'm currently doing one study with Mardi on more pineapples. Yeah? We're talking about critical loss points and post-harvest losses. But for bananas, yes, I notice it. But the thing is, the point is, why are lousy-looking local bananas more expensive than imported Cavendish? Now you can get Cavendish for $3.59, $3.69 from Vietnam, and the one from Dole are about $6 or $6 or something. But your berangan goes for five ringgit, 5.50 a kilo, and they don't look good, yeah. So I think that's because people still buy it. People still buy them, Of course, I would like to see better berangan, but the thing is, the supermarket says, well, we're selling you this, you only take it, but yeah, but it's always the fact that the consumers decide, and maybe the consumers don't know that there are better looking ones outside, yeah. So my main point is, we have to study the value chain, look at it again and see how complex how difficult it is, and depends on, it's also locality specific. Where are you based? Where is your farm? Is it somewhere in Sabah and Sarawak, or is it somewhere in Johor near the city? So it's a lot of things, a lot of factors there. So actually, I'm just commenting, on these things which I observe. I think similarly, I mean, I'm similarly, I think you have the same observations, but you're right. There should be some improvements at least in how they look physically on the outside, so that farmers will have a better choice. Of course, if you go to a market and there's berangan, which is 5 ringgit, one looks better than the other. You look for the better one. But in times when there's lack of supplies and where people, I think consumers, they prefer more local bananas rather than the Cavendish.
That's correct, actually. That's
because
the right point.
Cavendish, the Cavendish has got very well. It's a very commercial taste, but berangan has got something more organic there. So it's just my comments here. So maybe you'd like to, just.
I think you're right. I think that's
Thank
the last thing that you said on the local varieties, which is a lot of Malaysians still prefer the Rastali and Mas. So we take whatever we can get in the market. So there is no incentive for producers to improve on that because of the scarcity. One. The second is people are still buying and paying premium price for it. So yes, thanks for the comment. I think Prof. Yasmin has a
maybe we can work together.
Okay, I wanted to just continue the conversation because how can we change this? Because to be honest, it's very true. We take what we can get because I try and avoid Cavendish because I like to eat bananas every week. So only when I really can't find a kind of like edible local banana, then I will move to an imported Cavendish. How do we set the standard actually so that the consumer will know what to expect? Can we work with growers, or do we work with supermarkets, or retail chains to determine like, okay, this is you just work on one, say Rastali, or and say let's set a standard. This is the only kind of banana that can be sold for human consumption. And also give an outlet for those that cannot be sold to humans to be made into byproducts. I mean, we had a fantastic session on the other side on jam, on all sorts of other byproducts, from bananas which don't meet the grade. Is there a strategy that we can start?
Thanks, Prof. Yasmin. I think the problem is along the value chain. If anyone takes a stand, at the end, it's the producer who's going to be affected. So if let's say we want consumers to be more aware of what they buy and reject inferior looking bananas, for example, then the supermarket won't sell or won't be able to sell. If the supermarket takes the stand and don't take it from the middleman, then the middleman then would further exploit the producer. And in Malaysia, the producer will try one or two times and then he'll just lease off his land to oil palm and then say, okay, I'm done with it. I rather take a steady income. And that's how we've lost. When we did the banana trail in the past, we started from Kuala Selangor, Tanjung Karang, all the way up. Everybody had cleared up all their banana and moved on because when there's a demand for quality or some improvement, they'll just move away. So it's a challenge. At some point, I think it still has to start with the consumer. I feel personally that if we make a stand and stop purchasing or demanding from the seller that give us good quality banana, something may change, but I could be wrong. Yeah.
Maybe if I can add a little bit, okay, Chandran. Actually, we can still do it. We can make it. We can work on an initiative actually, because I've seen this done in Indonesia, where the supermarket chains, they have contract farmers. So now the farmers supply direct to the supermarkets, but they do in-farm packaging. That means in the farm, in the area, they have a small shed and they packet boxes, and the supermarket send in their lorries and just pick it. It goes direct to the supermarket, and they have very good quality because the quality control is at the farm itself. So that's one way where the small growers can sort of integrate into the value chain and sort of make it a shortcut from farmers direct to the consumers. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions.